Japan, a country known for its overwork culture. After the defeat of Japan in World War II, Japan's economy recovered and became a developed country in Asia. Japan's Ganbaru spirit is one of the factors that contributed to the revival of Japan's economy. The spirit of hard work is passed down from generation to generation, becomes a culture and is widely practiced in the workplaces. The workers are expected to provide their loyalty and servitude to the workplace. A lot of Japanese employees work excessively long hours, often exceeding the standard 40-hour work week. The overwork culture causes social problems in Japan. One of them is karoshi. Karoshi is loosely defined as death due to overwork, or more specifically the fatal condition in which the living rhythm of a human being is collapsed due to excessive fatigue and the life maintenance function is ruined. The major medical causes of death due to karoshi are heart attack and stroke due to stress attributed to long working hours and stress. The term karoshi first appeared around the early 1970s and stems from the word kachobayo, which literally translates to boss's disease. Kachobayo was meant to define the psychological and moral ailment of middle managers resulting from stress, worry about promotion, fate, making it or not, coupled with little rest that ailed Japanese management. The first case of karoshi was reported in 1969 of a 29-year-old male who suddenly died in a shipping department of a major Japanese newspaper company. Japan had been reluctant to address karoshi, and it was not until the late 1980s when several business executives who were in the prime of their years suddenly died without any previous signs of illness. Karoshi finally attracted media attention to the issue, with the government dragging its feet to address the issue and only finally beginning to publish data on karoshi in 1987. The Ministry of Health, Labor, and Welfare, MHLW, defined karoshi as sudden death of any employee who works an average of 65 hours per week or more, for more than 4 weeks, or on average of 60 hours per week or more, for more than 8 weeks. Medically speaking, death by karoshi can be attributed to several symptoms, most notably, acute heart failure and subarachnoid hemorrhage, as well as symptoms of burnout and depression. Karoshi is said to be a silent killer with little to no symptoms being present before death. Workers may present no obvious symptoms or signs of heart or brain problems but can be visibly present with depression or burnout syndrome, such as stiffness of joints and neck, frequent headaches, changes in weight, lack of concentration, insomnia, fatigue, or chronic depression. Karoshi strikes victims in the prime of their working years and in every occupation, although the white-collar salaryman is most susceptible. It has been noted that since the economic bubble burst in the early 1990s, Japan has tried to increase productivity by increasing working hours rather than hiring new employees that further afflict the white-collar salaryman. There are two factors that play a role in the prevalence of stress and long working hours which cause karoshi. First, cultural factors. Japan's culture has evolved around loyalty and servitude to the country, which was later translated to loyalty and servitude to the workplace. In Japan, loyalty to the organization is often measured by the time spent at one's desk. This loyalty is often seen as the reluctance to go home until their boss goes home, and their boss is typically unwilling to go home until his boss goes home. If a worker has the notion of leaving early, they risk losing credibility in the eyes of their peers and managers. Another cultural factor is the unpaid extracurricular activities or service overtime that are, more often than not, required of workers. These extracurricular activities include entertaining customers, rounds of golf with bosses, karaoke, namahodai, etc., which are expected of conscientious employees, which adds considerably to the official work hours. Second, psychological factors. The Japanese are a very self-conscious people, often extremely conscious of what other people think. A typical saying in Japan is "the nail that sticks up gets hammered down," implying someone out of line will be forced to return to the status quo of the society. This applies for the salaryman as well. In a highly culturally appointed society, where everyone is expected to work hard, the salaryman often thinks he also must work hard or he will feel guilty. This notion leads to overwork and stress, but moreover, psychological side effects where the salaryman feels it is their duty to fit in and perform to expectations. This mentality makes it hard for workers to stop, say no, or confronts their bosses when faced with excessive overtime or the need to take time off. In numerous cases, companies which are built upon traditional Japanese values are very concerned with order, structure, and power. This notion originates from the Code of Bushido, where the Japanese believe they are creating conditions for happiness and making a moral person happy by allowing him to work hard. Work is considered almost a religious experience where peers' pressure to conform to these rigorous and cultural expectations of the job are expected. To deviate is considered disloyal, and to question otherwise is considered morally unsound. Rather, it is what one does if one is a respected member of the community, regardless of whether or not anything productive is accomplished. To push workers to psychologically implement unhealthy practices can only lead to depression and burnout. Due to the shrinking population in Japan, the labor demand has increased to the highest levels since 1991, with 1.28 jobs per applicant. Some businesses are simply squeezing more out of their employees, which occasionally ends with tragic consequences. In 2014, the Japanese government passed the Act on Promotion of Preventive Measures Against Karoshi and Other Overwork-Related Health Disorders, to develop a national initiative of prevention of overwork-related disorders, but in 2015, based on the MHLW data, claims for compensation for karoshi rose to a record of 1,456 cases, but it's only 189 deaths that classified as karoshi, which were either from a fatal heart attack or stroke, or a suicide triggered by overwork. This number is just the tip of the iceberg. In fact, every year in Japan, thousands of workers are dying from overwork. Japan's lost decades. Since the early 1990s, Japan has suffered from economic stagnation, and COVID-19 worsened the situation. With a low birth rate and aging population, Japan is also suffering from labor shortages, so that overwork is unavoidable for the Japanese employees. The consequences of overwork in Japan are not only karoshi, but also karojizatsu, which means suicide due to overwork. In 2022, approximately 2,968 people in Japan committed suicide due to problems related to their work situation. What a nightmare. We work to live, not work to death. We aim to foster a better understanding of issues that impact our lives. Stay informed and engaged by subscribing our channel for regular updates and fresh insight. Subscribe now and be a part of our community. Thanks for watching.